I went into the doctor, and as soon as the doctor walked into the door, she looked at me and she told me, "What's wrong with you? Why aren't you getting better?" And I was just like, "You've had decades of experience and education. Why are you putting this on me? I'm the patient. I have done everything you guys have told me to do." And so I recognized in that moment, it really was on me. It was on me to figure this out. And I started to realize that my body had actually never failed me. She'd been fighting for me the whole time. And all the things that I've been doing, she'd been doing such a remarkable job of keeping me alive through such intense stress. So what happened was that I accidentally learned how to regulate my nervous system because nobody was telling me to do these things.
So the big question is this. We know spontaneous remissions and so-called miracle cures exist. We also know they aren't so spontaneous after all. I'm living proof of this, having cured my quote-unquote incurable illness. There's something to how this happens. So how do we, as humans with chronic symptoms, tap into this so-called miraculous healing capacity? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Dr. Erin, and welcome to the Sacred Illness Podcast. Before we begin today's episode, just my standard medical disclaimer. This podcast is intended for educational and informational purposes only. The content should not be considered a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult with a qualified healthcare professional regarding any medical concerns. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Sacred Illness Podcast. Very excited to have with me today Shelby Hanson. She's here with me in the United States in Ohio, and we're going to be talking about kidney disease today. And I don't think I've had anyone with kidney disease on my podcast yet. Shelby has gone on this really incredible journey as she was waiting for a transplant. Lots of amazing things happening while she was on the transplant list and post-transplant, how she continues to live with compromised immunity. So welcome to the show. I'm really excited to have this conversation today. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, so I am Shelby Hanson. I'm a speech language pathologist by trade and also a student of the nervous system. So I started out with this background in neuroplasticity and communication, and I really feel like it gave me this unique perspective on how our brain and our body recover, how it learns, how it adapts, not just through medicine, but also through safety and connection. So that's one of the things that I teach women is about how to connect with their energy and bodies by understanding these principles. But the thing is, I've learned how our brain works, how it heals, but I didn't realize that I was going to need to learn how to use those same lessons for my own body. So it was quite the shock for me.
Yeah, it's always interesting how we can teach it, but then it's this, oh my gosh, this applies to me too. So walk us through the story. Where does this journey begin for you?
Yeah, so it kind of starts with my dad was in the Army. So I grew up a lot of different places. My husband joined the Air Force. We met in college. And I had my third baby in Japan. We were living there for a couple of years. And by the time my daughter was 1.5, we moved from Japan when she was about 8 weeks old. We moved across the world to Alabama, across the country to California, and then across the country again to Florida before my youngest was 1.5 years old. Oh, just bam, 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 bam. And when I got there, I was totally exhausted. We were moving in and I sprained my ankle just right before we moved in. My body was just really weak and was not doing well. But the summer prior to that, I had gotten a life insurance policy drawn up when I was 30, which, by the way, this is a plug. Get life insurance if you don't already have it, even if you're really young. So I found out that my husband was paying $25 a month for insurance and I was paying $50. I'm healthy. I've always taken really good care of my body, always exercised, always eaten really well. In the spring of 2015, after feeling kind of yucky for about 1.5 years, my symptoms were extreme fatigue, extreme nausea. And I'd had 3 pregnancies. I kind of feel like I'm pregnant. So if I'm going to feel this bad anyway, maybe we should just get pregnant. And so we've been trying to get pregnant for probably about 8 months or so. And not getting pregnant. I was like, okay, whatever. We'll have our 4th baby whenever it works out. And so I went to check the mail while my husband was on a trip to Japan. This is 1.5 years after that initial life insurance policy was written. Checked the mail and got a letter that my life insurance had been denied. I was like, who denies life insurance to a healthy 31-year-old? Like, what is going on? Didn't say why I was denied. but it said that my GFR was 19. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. So I called a nurse friend and she was like, you need to go to the hospital right now.
Whoa.
So I went and got a blood test and I told the doctors what my labs were. And they were like, that's weird. That's something about your kidney. You're fine. The next morning, my phone was ringing off the hook because the blood results had come back. I went from perfect kidney function a year and a half prior to less than 20% function.
Holy smokes.
And really no clear reason why. So again, my main symptoms were fatigue and nausea. I went through and got diagnosed. I had a soft diagnosis of Alport syndrome, which is a genetic condition, but they were like, your kidneys wouldn't give out this quickly. So I was just like, okay, cool. We're going to stop everything. I had been stay-at-home mom. I was going to go back to work and do speech therapy because we were back in the States and things were stable. Like, okay, not doing that. Started to go to the doctors full time. That became my new full-time job. And I thankfully was not at the point of dialysis, but I did qualify for a preemptive transplant. So I was listed for a transplant in January of 2016. And as soon as we found out, we were like, okay, this is why I'm not getting pregnant. So we're putting that on halt and we'll figure that out later, like maybe after I have a transplant. So, I'm feeling so betrayed by my body. I'm like, wait a second, I've done everything to take care of you. When they did the blood draw, I had a young woman from my church. She had just come over to my house and we were going to go out paddleboarding. I was very much living my life, but couldn't understand why I felt so terrible. And so at Father's Day of 2016, I was feeling really, really terrible. My husband was already at church and I was like, I can't even walk straight. I think I need to start dialysis or something. So I went to church, took the kids to church, came home, and I'm like, well, the first thing they're going to ask is, are you pregnant? And so I was like, well, I'll just take a pregnancy test because I'm sure that's not what this is. And despite our best efforts, I found out that I was pregnant with our fourth on the transplant list.
Oh my gosh.
And I'll talk about why I think that happened in a minute, but just had such a challenging time because the doctors were telling me, you need to end this pregnancy. You're going to die. Baby's going to die. And I was like, that is just not an option. It's not an option. And so we just kept watching and progressing. And as my baby started to develop, his kidneys started to actually filter the toxins in my blood.
Whoa.
So my toxins actually got lower that were in my blood. My toxin levels were out of control, which is why I had felt so terrible. And so I was able to deliver him. He was a little bit early, but perfectly healthy after he was born. That's when my kidneys started to tank a little bit more. I got down to 14%. And then in July of 2018 was when I got the call for a transplant.
Wow.
So I was really scared about getting a transplant because in my mind, I was like, if I just can hold out for 5 more years, they're going to create some bio kidney. They called me on the 4th of July. And I was like, I don't even know what to say. Should I say yes? I didn't understand how sick I was.
Right.
Everybody around me could see how sick I was, but I couldn't see it. And here I am taking care of a 1-year-old too this time. My husband was getting a PhD in aerospace engineering. I had my 3 older kids. They were in school, but I had the 1-year-old still at home. And so I go in to get this transplant. I was 99% sensitized, which means that if there was 100 people that would have the same blood type as me, I would reject 99% of their kidneys because of having so many pregnancies. I had too many antibodies in my blood to be able to match up really easily. So usually transplant lists are very, very long. I was on the transplant list for about 2.5 years because it's so difficult to find a match for me.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay, well, here's the answer. They flew it in from California to Michigan. After the transplant, they're like, okay, it's not quite working yet, but it will. About 2 days in, they were like, we need to go in. We need to see if the blood supply is cut off. This is not working. They almost took the transplant out immediately afterwards.
Wow.
So go into an MRI and the kidney has blood that's filtering, but it's not filtering the toxins out. And so the medications they give you after a transplant to knock out your immune system so that you don't reject this new organ are actually filtered and metabolized through your kidneys. They are very nephrotoxic. So my original kidneys, they don't take them out, that were kind of hopping along, started to give out completely, and the new kidney was not functioning at all. So I was worse after the transplant than I was before. I was in complete terror, complete shock. Again, feeling so betrayed by my body. I thought this was the answer. I've been doing the things that they say I should do I went into my doctor, my nephrologist, and I wanted to ask her, what should I be doing? How can I help? I felt like my hands were tied. They gave me plasmapheresis. They did IVIG. They did everything they could throw at it. It wasn't rejecting. It just wasn't filtering. And so I went into the doctor, and as soon as the doctor walked into the door, she looked at me and she told me, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you getting better?
Oh my gosh.
And I was just like, you've had decades of experience and education. Like, why are you putting this on me? I'm the patient. I have done everything you guys have told me to do.
Yeah.
And so I recognized in that moment, it really was on me.
Mm.
It was on me to figure this out. And what ended up happening is that I started to realize that my body had actually never failed me. She'd been fighting for me the whole time. And all the things that I've been doing, she'd been doing such a remarkable job of keeping me alive through such intense stress. So what happened was that I accidentally learned how to regulate my nervous system because nobody was telling me to do these things. I'll back up and tell you before I got pregnant. I decided that I was going to do anything in my power to decrease the inflammation in my body. And so I went on this very, very extreme diet. And at first it felt so hard. And I was like, no, you know what? We're not going to do it that way. I had been in this fight or fight place for so long. I lived that way my whole life. I really resonate with Erin's story because people pleaser, perfectionist, like the caretaker, parentified, all of those things. That was my baseline of my stress. And so when I went to work on the food, I'd always eaten healthy, but really, really intentional and really directed the energy source as a way to heal my body. It put me into the rest and digest, that rest and repair state accidentally. I didn't know. And so I was feeling the best that I had felt. And even though we were using methods to prevent pregnancy, my body did heal to a point where it felt that it was okay to get pregnant.
Wow.
My kidneys were not improving, but the rest of my body was. So that was my first time that I was like, okay, somehow my body is working for me, even though things are really crazy with my health right now. So after the transplant, I found myself stuck in constant fight or flight. I even joke, like after coming out of anesthesia, my mom took a video of me. I didn't even know that she did this for a long time. And coming out of anesthesia after this crazy transplant, and the first thing I say is, the kids have a swim meet tomorrow. I just organized all of the snacks. Mom, the towels are at the bottom of the stairs. You got to go this way.
Wow.
There was no moment for me to think about, oh, maybe I need to think about what I need in order to heal.
Yeah. Wow.
No, we're just taking care of everybody. I don't got time to have kidney failure. Right. So I started to get my hands on any piece of information that I could about healing, anything. And one of the things that changed my perspective was reading Joe Dispenza's Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself.
Yes.
Because I started to realize that even though it wasn't my fault that I had kidney disease, there was a way of being that was promoting disease in my body. And so I needed to do something to turn the tides to be able to help my body to access my natural healing capabilities. Again, I didn't have words for it, but now I do, because what happened was I had been stuck in this chronic stress state. So I started to do things to decrease the stress and invite myself to that rest and repair state so that my cells could regenerate. So I was talking to one of the doctors and he said, you know, I've seen a kidney be like a sleepy kidney is what they call this. It's delayed graft function. I've seen it go for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So 2-3 weeks came and went, and my kidneys are still not filtering. I'm starting to have to eat less potassium and phosphorus because that's what they tell you to do when you're on dialysis.
Right.
All of these toxins are just building up so high in my body. 4 weeks comes and goes. 5 weeks comes and goes. And I'm just sitting there in limbo. I'm getting blood draws. My creatinine is just going up and up. And that's when I started to do some visualization. Visualizing me being healed ahead of time.
Yeah.
I am a very religious person. I felt very close to God during the entire process. I felt very spiritually taken care of, and yet I wasn't healing. And so I had to step into the embodied practice of somebody that already had been healed from this. and really visualizing the cells actually regenerating, my body accepting this kidney as its own. It felt like such woo and such hocus pocus. I'm trying anything at this point. I don't care what it is. This is not my natural tendency. I know what I need. I need to follow what the doctors say and all the Western medicine. And the doctors are telling me we don't know what to tell you.
Right.
And so as I did that, I did those heavy visualizations. I listened to a lot of really calming music during the time because I was in a lot of pain as well. And that was when I would feel the least amount of pain. And about 7 weeks to the day, 49 days after my transplant, my creatinine finally started to drop.
Wow.
They have no explanation. They don't know why. It wasn't filtering and then it started filtering. And I actually didn't start to tell this story until this past year. And this happened 7.5 years ago because I was like, it sounds kind of weird. Like you just started meditating and everything happened. No, that's not what it was.
Right. No.
It was allowing my body to come out of that stressed state and be able to do what she wanted to do the whole time, which was to heal.
Hey, Sacred Illness listeners, Dr. Erin here. If the stories on this podcast have stirred something in you, if you're hearing these conversations and thinking, that feels true for me too, then this message is for you. You know by now that illness is not a random malfunction. It's a message. It's a call. It's a sacred, if not difficult, invitation to remember who you really are. But hearing the paradigm is one thing. Walking the path yourself is another. Where do you even begin? How do you translate that knowing into a daily practice? How do you move from listening to the message of your symptoms to actually understanding it step by step and learning how to heal with it? That is exactly why I created the Sacred Illness community. It's a living, guided container for those who are ready to answer the call of their own body. This is where the philosophy becomes a map, where you move from insight to integration. Inside, you'll find my full Sacred Illness blueprint. This is a 9-chapter journey that guides you through the mythic stages of illness as initiation. It weaves together the somatic education, nervous system science, and deep self-inquiry we talk about here on the podcast. But it's more than a course. It's a community. It's a place for growth, not just commiseration. You'll have access to live events, somatic yoga, intuitive eating courses, and a library of EFT and self-hypnosis tracks, and a forum to connect with others who are speaking this same language of the body. This is for the listener who's done searching for answers and is ready to begin the real journey of transformation. Membership is just $37 a month, and you can cancel anytime. And as a thank you for listening to this podcast, you can use coupon code PODCAST, that's all caps, PODCAST at checkout for 20% off your first month. If you're ready to get started, check out the link below in the show notes or go to mysacredillness.com, enter the coupon code, and get started today. This is your next step. The path is here, and it's ready for you when you're ready to take it. Okay, let's get back to the podcast. That's exactly it. You said it perfectly. It's shifting out of the state that was promoting disease and into a state in which healing can occur. If I could summarize my work in one sentence, that's basically it. Our body has the innate capacity to heal. It's always trying to move us back to baseline. And so disease, illness, symptoms, whatever, it just indicates that there's something blocking that innate capacity. And we just have to figure out what that is. A lot of the time, it's stress. It's our body being shifted into that state where healing can't happen. There are things on top of it, but that's the baseline. If you're in a physiological, psychological state that is shifting how everything in your body is functioning, doesn't matter if you're eating clean or doing that exercise or whatever, your body physically cannot do what it needs to do. And hearing your story, like, first of all, there's that through line that is present in everyone I talk to where we don't know why this is happening. We don't know why it's not working or what this is about. There's some sort of element of mystery to it. And I think it's that mystery that really pushes us, as you said, to be like, okay, I guess it's on me then. Because if you don't know, I can't just not figure this out. I'm not going to live if this doesn't get figured out. It's almost like a blessing in disguise, that sort of unknowing piece, because if they had answers, you would have just kept going with them, which is what we do. We would just keep following their advice, doing what they said to do. This is why the nervous system stuff is so important and so overlooked, because they can't measure it. They can't do a lab that's like, how stressed are you? Or how often are you in parasympathetic mode? They can't test it. So to them, it's like, well, nothing is wrong. But you started to figure that out on your own. And Yeah, that visualization process. Tell us about that. I do a lot of that in my work. That's a big piece of what I do
Hmm.
with people is have them write a vision statement of who are you? Who are you moving toward? The Joe Dispenza stuff. Who do you want to become? How do you break this habit of who you are to become who you want to be? And what I find in my work with clients is that so many limiting beliefs and fears and doubts come up in that process because there's reasons why we aren't that person to begin with. And
Hmm.
I wonder if that happened for you. Did you come up against roadblocks as you were doing that meditation, or were you just all in that something had to change? How was that for you?
Yeah, I think it was probably a combination of both. Honestly, it's a little bit hard to remember now because this is what happens is you become that person. And so then it's just like, oh, I don't even know what I did because
Right.
that's just who I am. But one of the practices that I used then that I still use now that's helped me along that way is really connecting to my future self.
Yes.
And like that person of me that already has everything that I want, realizing that if I have a desire in my heart, it was put there by God and it's a whisper of the future.
Yes.
And so in 2021, I was the heaviest I've ever been. COVID was scary because I've got a transplant. And they told me that 50% of the transplant patients that came into their clinic with COVID did not
My
leave the
gosh.
clinic. And
Wow.
so, 4 kids, like we hunkered down. It was scary. I was asking myself questions. What would I be doing? Who would I be if I was
Yes.
20 pounds lighter, if I was healthy, if I was healed? So, in the 2021 version of this, I closed my eyes and really just imagined my life, like a day in that life. And I was like, she'd be running triathlons. And I'm like, I haven't done that in 10 years. And the way opened up. I couldn't even run 1 minute when I had that. But part of the visualization was unmemorizing some of the states that I would
Mm,
habitually go to the fear, habitually go to the shame, especially was a really, really strong one for me. I blamed myself so harshly for getting sick. I was so upset with myself. Like, I know all the right things. Why did I get this? I actually didn't know all the right things. I just thought I did. Unlearning those emotional states and then repatterning, like, what did I want to include? What do I want to step towards? Because I think a lot of times we know what we don't want, but unless you know what you're stepping towards, you've got to fill it with something, or we'll
yes.
just go back to the old patterning.
Yes. That's the perfect way to say what this is because, yes, our nervous system always takes the fastest, easiest, most well known path, whether it's good for us or not. It doesn't matter. To the nervous system, it's like, that's what I know to do. So I'm going to do that because that feels safe to me, even if, again, it causes harm in the end. And so, yeah, that people pleaser persona that we had, slash, probably are
Mhm.
still, I'm still recovering from in many
Oh, yeah.
ways. It's so well worn, especially if it becomes that persona we wear in childhood. The world we step into and the role we step into, we really have to work hard to recognize all those ways in which we are showing up in these habitual patterns that ultimately are not who we are. I think the you coming out of anesthesia, the first thing is going into caretaker mode. Like, what more
Right.
evidence do you need of how your nervous system was constantly firing? It doesn't even have full consciousness yet. And it's like, okay, do this, and there's that there. And also that's motherhood, parenthood, right? Just constantly having that in your brain
Mhm.
too. But it adds on top of that programming that's already there. And obviously it's hard because there are things that life requires of us, especially if we do have kids. We do have to show up for people. So I think finding that balance is very challenging. But yes, it is. It's 100% breaking that habit, unmemorizing those go-to states and working to find a way to be in relationship with yourself in your life so that you're not constantly sending that signal to your system of I'm not safe. It can be really tricky because we don't think of it as bad. If we're on the go, taking care of our kids, going to this thing, going to that thing, there's nothing innately bad happening, but it's the energy with which we're doing it. It's what's driving us that is the problem. It's that survival energy. And so the process of unmemorizing for you, was it the visualization process that helped break that for you? Were there other elements that you brought in?
Well, it's really interesting because I got into life coaching in 2017. So I've been very heavy with the mindset, even post transplant. And so back in 2021, when I had that epiphany that I wanted to run a triathlon, I was like, but I can't do that because hip pain that I've
Mm,
had since I was 14. And again, the universe opened up the way to learn how to unlearn this chronic pain. I got introduced to a coach and she helped with chronic pain. I was doing a visualization. She had us closing our eyes. And again, I haven't run. I can't even run a mile. And I'm like, yeah, if I run more than a mile, my hip just kills. It just hurts so bad. And so I'm sitting there closing my eyes, and she tells us, imagine doing something that you wouldn't normally do because it would be really painful. And so I imagine myself running on the beach, and I kid you not, my hip starts aching so bad. And I'm like, what black magic did she just do? What just happened? But my brain was so on high alert for that particular type of movement that just imagining it set my body into pain. So I was like, okay, I got to figure out what is going on. And I think this is when I started to learn about unlearning these emotional states. I did a program with her where I went through and understood this sensation is actually neutral. My nervous system is making it feel painful or not painful. I'm responding to the sensation with fear. And so now I'm having pain from it. And why did I go to that? Why did that start happening? Oh, when I was 14, I was on the cross country team. And I remember the moment that my hip hurt too bad that I started walking and I said, I can't run anymore.
Wow.
And it was because I was running up a hill. I was the last one. And one of my personality traits is the achiever. So in cross country, your team gets measured on how fast everybody goes. That's the top ones. I never was part of it, but I was always the last one crossing the finish line. And so that was so threatening to my nervous system that it sent pain to get me to stop.
Wow.
Our bodies are so simple.
Yeah.
They're just like, this is painful emotionally. You're not going to stop unless we make you have a reason to stop.
Yes.
It took months of me just being really gentle, really curious, really trying to understand, okay, what is going on with my body? Oh, this is weird. The sensation moves around. I've had MRIs on it. I've had podiatrists. I've had physical therapy. I've had all these things, and like, it still is here. But there actually is nothing physiologically going on because essentially I had to learn that the sensation that was happening in my hip was not dangerous. It was not going to cause more pain. And so it's the same thing with what was happening with my transplant. Just because I'm having this sensation right now, just because I'm having pain in my body right now, doesn't mean that it's dangerous.
Right.
I actually am healing. I actually am getting better. So that's what I mean when I say unlearning those emotions, unlearning those states is teaching yourself what is safe.
Yeah. Beautiful. It's such a simple but profound way to think about symptoms in general. Is it's a response to what you've learned. It's a symptom of what you've learned, if we want to say it that way. And so if you think so much of this work is about befriending your body, my goal is to change the paradigm. Illness is obviously, it's not fun and it's not pleasant and it's not what we want to happen in our lives. But if it does happen, it's changing that mindset of, oh, my body's failing me, or what's wrong with me, or I have bad luck, just thinking of it in these really detrimental terms, and instead saying, okay, it's responding to something. It's a symptom of something I've learned, a way that I'm showing up in my body and in my world and in my mindset. What can I do to take advantage of this opportunity to actually make my life better? And that's the resounding theme of all the people I talk to on here too, is life is better because of my illness, not in spite of, or anything like that. It's because I got sick that my life turned around or changed. And it sounds like even for you, you were on this path to go back to speech therapy, but your illness caused you to go in a different direction. Is that fair to say? How did your life change because of getting sick, aside from all the things you had to go through to heal your body?
Oh gosh. I mean, it changed the way that I related in all of my relationships. It changed the way that I was taking on things that were just not mine to take on, that were never within my control. And like just boundary setting, learning how to rest without feeling guilty for that. A big part of the healing too was allowing people to come in and help me because I was so hyper independent. In fact, while I was on the transplant list, I gave myself a rule that if somebody asked if they could help out, even if they were just flippantly saying it, I had to say yes.
I love that.
And if I couldn't think of something to tell them in the exact moment, I gave myself a 24-hour deadline where I had to call them back and tell them something that they could do. I'm like, don't offer to help unless you actually want to help, because I'm going to, because I had to practice receiving.
Yeah.
Because my giving muscle was just so big, like give, give, give. But Brene Brown talks about if you're not willing to receive, then it shows that you're actually not giving from a free place, because you're giving in the hopes that somebody's going to have reciprocity and give that back to you. So I sat in so much resentment of I would do anything for them, and I just ask for the littlest thing and they don't do it back for me. So I had to rewire how I looked at accepting and also giving
Yes.
from a place of abundance and from a place of, nope, that's past my capacity. That's not part of my value system right now. That's going to be a no. And tend to the parts of me that wanted to be like, oh, you're so mean. How could you do that to them? And allow myself to be able to receive what was always meant for me, which was better than what I thought.
Yes. Oh man, that's big. I feel like everyone who identifies as the people pleaser is like, yep, I know how hard it is to genuinely receive something. And what you said about how if you can't receive, you're not also giving from that place of genuine care.
Mhm.
And not that we don't care about
Yeah.
people, but there's something there. It's like there's strings
It's
attached to it.
transactional.
Exactly. Yes. And as you were saying that, I just like flashed back to my entire life, basically,
Yeah.
but also childhood where I learned that behavior from. There was always that feeling of giving something in order to be seen. I am
Yes.
so desperate to be seen, but the only way you are seen and you're worthy and valuable is by what you're doing for people. And so that was what got built into my system and what basically the first 20 years of my life until I got sick was all about was like, I'm going to be everything and do everything and give every part of me and show up for you in every way that I know how to so that I finally get something back. But then, of course, the irony being, you can't receive it. You don't know how to receive it. You don't feel worthy of
Mhm.
receiving it. You feel uncomfortable receiving it.
Yeah.
And so there's this vicious unfulfillment cycle constantly happening.
Receiving a kidney transplant,
Oh, man.
literally what I was learning how to do was to
Mm,
receive that gift into my body to allow myself to fully accept it
and it didn't work until you could.
until I was ready. Because I was just like, we'll just see how this happens. We'll see what we're supposed to do. People kept asking me how I felt going into the transplant. And I was like, I'm terrified and excited. I'm terrified.
Yeah.
And my nervous system was just out of control, so activated. So, of course, how would it be able to be in that receptive receiving mode
Yeah.
when it was activated?
Is 49 days post transplant unheard of for it to kick in?
I don't know that it's necessarily unheard of. It's very uncommon.
Yep.
And then one other thing I will say too is that I got that soft diagnosis of Alport syndrome. It's a collagen 4 alpha 4 mutation. And we went to see, like, do I need to get my kids tested? It used to be thousands of dollars to get it tested. Now it was like $200. I was like, pay the money.
Yeah.
And they came back and they said, you don't have Alport syndrome.
Oh my gosh.
Now, I don't know if they just diagnosed me erroneously before that or not, but they had a specific gene that they were looking at.
Yeah.
And after understanding and utilizing these nervous system principles 10 years later, there's no evidence that I have that. When I was pregnant with my son, right before I got pregnant, I had a positive C-reactive protein. And all the questions that the rheumatologist was asking me, she told me, yeah, you've got a soft diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis. After your baby's born, just come to me. We'll put you on some medications because your hands are going to hurt so bad you won't be able to hold your baby.
Oh my gosh.
And these are some of the things that I really resonated with your story because I was like, I do not
Yeah.
accept that diagnosis. That's not for me. And so I looked at epigenetics. That's part of the things that I was learning about after my transplant. I'm like, these conditions, they turned on certain genes. I'm trying to visualize coming back and turning off those genes, allowing the genes to function properly again.
Yes.
And it all comes from allowing our nervous system to be in that regenerative state, coming back to homeostasis, just like you were talking about. So I've seen results where I'm like, okay, I've had all of these conditions, like anemia too. Anemia has been reversed. And some of it is from kidney and some of it's not.
Mm,
So I don't know what I can attribute to my kidney things to be able to say I feel better in my body in my 40s than I did in my 30s. To say that things are getting better afterwards is an anomaly.
yes, absolutely. And I think that's the difference between when we receive that external treatment to fix the body, but the reason the illness was there in the first place remains. And this is another beautiful example of how Western medicine is needed and life saving.
Absolutely.
My
I
podcast is
love
never
it.
about poo pooing them or throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Like, we need it. But the reason the illness is there in the first place is nothing that Western medicine can touch. It can't touch it. You have to be the one to figure out that piece of the puzzle. And that allows the Western medicine or Eastern medicine or whatever medicine you're using to heal your body in addition can really kick in and help. Like, you got the kidney, but it couldn't kick in and work until you did that piece, right? I think that's such a
Yes,
clear
exactly.
example, right? Because your doctor was saying, for all intents and purposes, this should be working. We've done our job here. So that was that piece that only you could do. Only you could go into your mind body and get the thing to kick into gear. So you are now 7 years post-transplant. You had said too, everything you learned because of this experience has only helped and made your life more beautiful and richer. What does it look like now?
I actually did go back to work as a speech language pathologist in 2019. And I credit living into my purpose outside of my family, outside of my home, to being one of the things that has helped me to be the healthiest. There is something about living into your purpose every single day that is so healing for our bodies, doing what we are supposed to be doing.
Yes.
I got trained as a life coach back in 2018. I opened up the doors to my coaching in 2021. And this past January, I was like, I think I'm actually ready to do both. So now I have 1 day a week that I do speech. I do my coaching on the rest of the days. But having that piece that's just for me is so healthy. Another thing is movement. It really doesn't matter what you do. I started playing pickleball. I love reformer Pilates. My sister has a reformer Pilates studio in Utah. I love going to that. And I just started doing some here. It doesn't matter what you do, but exercise stretches our capacity so that we're able to come back to health easier. As far as the immunocompromised piece, I take care when I start to feel like I'm on the edge of getting sick. I don't wait until I'm fully sick before I start doing stuff now. So if I feel like I'm on the edge of getting sick, I start questioning, how am I overextending myself right now? What is going on that I am not able to come back to that homeostasis? I will fully shut down and be like, okay, we're doing nothing today. And I'll turn on healing frequencies. That is one of my favorite ways to go right into parasympathetic.
Amazing.
And so just like taking the rest ahead of time, recognizing ahead of time before it's like, oh, now it's a big deal and I'm going to have dehydration, issues with my transplant, all of these things. I'm like, nope, we do it now. And my practice is like, okay, cool. Sounds like I've been in fight or flight too much. We need to go back. And asking, like, this is the part of befriending the body. What do you need? What do you want? And when it's on the edge of sickness, listening to it, but also when it's not. Every year at the beginning of the year, I'm like, okay, what do you want to do this year, body? Like I literally talk to my body as if
I
she's
love
her
that.
own person. And that's how I started doing triathlons again. And then a couple summers ago, I did a bike ride, a 300-mile bike ride from the top of Cleveland to the bottom of Cincinnati, the entire length of Ohio. And then this past year, I was like, we're going to hike a mountain. So I did a 4,400 elevation gain mountain with all my kids except for my 8-year-old this past summer.
Wow.
And so now I'm open. I'm like, okay, what's the next thing we're going to do? Like, what else sounds fun? I traveled to Italy this past fall. So like lots of international travel, things that I didn't think that I would be able to do.
Yeah. So it's like a relationship like any other. You're taking care of yourself the way you've taken care of hundreds of people your entire life, I'm sure. You're
Yes.
finally giving yourself that care. And really, that's all the body wants. It wants us to tune in, and it's a barometer, right? It's constantly communicating with us and telling us things. And the thing that people say often is, my body was whispering before it started screaming.
I say that all the time.
Yes.
It was whispering and I didn't listen.
Yep.
So I had to scream.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's part of my reframe with illness too. It doesn't want to go all the way and get the big illness brewing, because why would it want to do that? That's anti its survival mechanisms, that's anti its healing capacity, etc. But we don't tune in. We're so good at overriding those little aches and pains, those little annoyances, the fatigues, whatever. We just ignore everything from the neck down and push, push, push. And so the body's like, okay, I guess I'll just get a little bit louder then, and, then see if that works, and on it goes. But yeah, our body is communicating with us and is wise on every single level. It's constantly telling us what it needs, what it wants, what it prefers. And the other thing I was hearing as you were sharing is how your caretaker skills, your sensitivity now is actually part of your purpose, but in this way that is beautiful and healthy and aligned. And it's like you are doing it versus doing it for the reasons we learned to do it in childhood or whatever that came from. Does that feel true to you? Like, do you feel like you're finally
100%.
Yeah.
I love like having that need to take care of things. It's met in such a healthy way that fulfills that purpose and identity. staying in that teacher role is really helpful
Mm,
because it keeps you keyed into doing those practices that help you to be the healthiest rather than taking that patient identity on where I'm in the passive seat of waiting for the doctors to tell me what to do. It's like, no, I'm actually the agent in my life over this.
that's amazing. Yeah. So tell us about your coaching and what you're guiding women through. And you also have something to give my listeners, which I'm excited to look at
Yeah.
myself. But yeah, tell us
Yeah.
what your work looks like and how this has translated into this other way in which you're showing up and sharing your medicine with the world.
Yeah, well, essentially after my transplant, my kidney was working and I was like, okay, the toxin levels are down. I should be feeling really good. Why don't I feel so good? And what I realized is that the exhaustion I was experiencing wasn't just due to the kidneys. It was because of my nervous system.
Mm,
And so the kind of people that I help are women who feel physically and emotionally exhausted. And essentially it's what we've been talking about is guiding them to help rebuild that safety within their bodies and teaching them how to access the energy that's already inside of them. Because one of the things that I hear people is like, oh, I'm just so tired. I don't have any energy. And that is a lie. Because my personal belief is that we have 100% of the energy that we need. Sometimes it's getting allocated differently than we want. When you are healing, like all of your energy is getting allocated to healing. Doesn't mean you don't have energy. It means it's being used that way. When you are in a shutdown freeze, that is actually one of the most energy taxing states to be in and to sustain because
yeah.
we're in such a threat mode in that moment to stay there. It looks like you're not doing anything. So we erroneously think, oh, I'm being lazy when it's anything but. So learning how to add the self-compassion, how to add the curiosity, how to add that gentleness.
Yes.
So understanding we always have the perfect amount of energy and your body's never wrong. It's always communicating to you.
That's such a amazing and important reframe. Yeah, we think of fatigue or illness as some sort of loss of something, and it's a reallocation. Everything you need is still here. It's just being recruited or used differently. And so it's about how do you reallocate it so that it's working in the way that it wants to work. But there's again, it's that unmemorizing the go-to things so that your body can open up. And I have experienced that 100% when I started to reallocate my nervous
Yeah.
system, right, to get away
Yeah.
from that fight, flight, freeze constant thing. And yeah, I think so many of us are in a state of what's referred to as functional freeze, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're not fight or flight. We're not in that anxious, angry, intense
Mhm.
place, but we're not in our body. So we're more in that numb, tired, shut down state. And so we think it's like a low energy state, but as you said, it's actually the highest output our system can do because it's keeping you in this really, really high, so high activated that you're shut down kind of place. So
Yeah.
it feels
Yes.
contradictory, but it's exactly what you said. I feel like your work is for every single woman in the world because everyone I talk to, everyone I know, right? We're just unfortunately conditioned to be in that constant go, go, go place.
Yeah.
So tell us what you are offering or how people can
Oh,
find you.
yeah.
And I'll put all the links below so people can find you if they want to work with you.
Absolutely. So I have a free gift for you guys. It is my top 3 tips for getting your energy back. I do a coaching program, Get Your Energy Back, one-on-one coaching right now. And I have my own podcast, Get Your Energy Back. I'm on Instagram at Shelby Living Vibrantly. And my website is getyourenergybackcoaching.com. I just love to meet people that are ready to take charge of their health in a way that actually is going to work this
Yeah.
time.
Yes. That's a big thing I've been talking about. I think so many of us now are aware of the nervous system and fight or flight or freeze and being dysregulated and all that kind of stuff. But it's one thing to know it and it's another thing to do something about it. And it sounds like what your coaching really is about walk the talk, actually
Mm.
change how you're showing up in the world, change how you're showing up in your body, because it doesn't do anything if we just keep it in our head. There's already too much in our head. We have to bring it down into our body and let it actually change how we are. And that's where, in general, this nervous system work is shifting. Everyone's like, okay, now we all get it. So what do we do with it? Because it doesn't
Mhm.
matter if I don't do anything. So that's amazing. And you had mentioned before you have an episode specifically for people who are
Oh,
listening who
yeah.
have kidney disease. It was the 10 things to do with
To
kidney
thrive.
disease.
Yeah, to thrive with kidney disease.
Okay.
I'll send that over to you so you can put that in the links too.
Yeah. So anyone with kidney disease, check the notes below. And I just so appreciate your story and really just that beautiful image you have of the kidney being there, being perfectly fine and yet not functioning because there was still that mind-body blockage of you not receiving, allowing things to come into your system and heal you and help you and take care of you. This feels like so much of a story of turning the care back to ourselves and listening to our body and slowing down and doing the things that we need to thrive in this lifetime. And what more of a beautiful and perfect example of it than your story. So I like to end, as you probably know, because you listened to a few episodes.
I did.
Yeah, I like to ask guests, who did your illness invite you to become? Who is it inviting you to become? I think you've already shared a lot of that, but I'd love to hear your answer to that question.
So it's funny because I don't know if you've ever seen Oracle cards before. I have this Work Your Light deck, and I pulled this card right before we did this interview, and it's the Align Your Life. And the person that it invited me to become is me,
Yay.
aligned me. Okay. And so, can I share a little bit about this? This is the invitation I have for anybody that's listening to right now, is thinking about what is not aligned, what needs to change. So many of us learned to be who the world wants us to be. But there comes a time when it's harder to hold on to this facade than it is to embrace who we truly are, to surrender how we have changed and aligned to that way of being. So if you pull this card, is what this book says, you're being called to let go of who you once were or the things that you once defined yourself by, the job, the relationship, the mask you wore, and to embrace who you truly are now, to courageously step into the person you came here to be in full authenticity, to embrace your weirdness and your uniqueness. So perhaps you've outgrown some relationships or circumstances, and it is time to reassess and bring all the parts of your life into alignment so that they are congruent with who you truly are today.
Wow.
So, my aligned version, that's who it called me to be.
What a perfect card to summarize all of that. And yeah, ultimately, to me, that's what illness is inviting us to become, is ourselves. It's inviting us to become who we are. So Shelby, I'm so grateful for you for reaching out, coming on the podcast, sharing your story and journey with us. It's so inspirational and such a beautiful summary of what's possible when we really tune into our body and really listen and really just shift the way we're showing up. And so thank you so much for your time today. All the links down below are for you listening to this podcast who want to get in touch with Shelby and learn more about her or just follow her journey. Thank you so much for being here today. And I'm so excited to get this episode out to my audience.
Thank you for this platform and interviewing people. There is nothing more inspiring than knowing that we are not alone. There are so many that have these stories.
Yes, yes. Our bodies can heal. That is the resounding message of this podcast.
Yes.
All right, everyone. Until next time, thanks for tuning in.
Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of the Sacred Illness Podcast. If you find this information shared here inspirational and educational, please share it with those you think would benefit from this work. To take this work deeper yourself, check out our website, www.aurorasomatic.com, where you can explore our coaching, community, and course options. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel where new content is coming out all the time, intended to inspire, awaken, and help you deepen your relationship with yourself, your life, and your world. We'll see you next time.